So just to review, first of all, I don't know if I made it clear yesterday because I was in and out a little bit. We're basing this series off of a book. It's a really good book. What I'm going to try to do, because sometimes we're using certain books as a guide to certain topics, what we'll probably try to do, I'll probably talk to Uncle George, maybe we can order a number of those books and have them in the bookstore instead of you have to go online and order campaign sometimes. But maybe we'll see. The book is actually called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. And this book, very interestingly, just to give the background about it, it's written by a pastor, a Protestant priest in Queens. Actually, William Michael met him. I was talking to him one time, said he met him. This priest, just to know how he got to the story is really interesting. He's been he went to the seminary, and he's a priest for 15, 17 years. Until he got to the point where his life was he got to the point where his life was completely devastated. Like his wife basically picked up and said, we're not enjoying this marriage, I don't respect you, I don't respect the church, I don't respect the priesthood or anything, kind of thing. I'm tired. Just left. Not left him separated, but I'm going to go spend a month with my mom. So it started off that way, so he hit kind of rock bottom. And he was talking about how he himself wasn't even enjoying being a priest in his church anymore, even before that. He just was there's a certain group of people that, some people just don't want to come to church anymore. He goes, I felt the same way as a priest, just didn't want to be here anymore. So the book came from a person who was at his lowest and kind of had to recollect himself properly. So that's kind of the theme of it. That's why the actual name of the book is Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, because it's saying like Mina said last week, it's for you to be spiritually healthy and well, there's also the aspect of your emotions. So he said when something happens to you, it affects your body, your mind, your heart, your soul, everything. It doesn't just affect you. If you get hurt, this hurt you broke your ankle. It doesn't affect you just physically. It also affects you emotionally, psychologically, and a lot of things, mentally. So in the same aspect, we have to look at our lives and our relationship with Christ, because it says in the Gospel of God, Christ said, "Love the Lord your God with all your mind, all your heart, all your soul, all your strength." So every aspect of you has to love God. But a lot of times we can say, "I'll love God without my mind." I don't understand. Some people, they don't understand the Trinity. They don't understand. We all sometimes we don't understand Trinity. We don't understand incarnation. We don't understand all these topics or resurrection. What's the point? We keep saying this is, we'll get into it later. The power of the resurrection. What do you mean power of the resurrection? What the heck does that mean? And there's a lot of depth to it, but sometimes we don't know. And we're okay with it. But then sometimes someone can come speak to us and we're we can't explain to him what's the point of resurrection. It kind of shakes our foundation. But in the same thing, mentally, also emotionally, it's very important to be healthy. And I'll show you a kind of book. I'm just going to review real quick what Mina spoke about, the 7 points last week. He basically said, he spoke about 7 barriers to our spiritual growth. They're kind of, when we're building our foundation our spiritual life on a foundation, sometimes we do it in a faulty way. And these are 7 building blocks, barriers, or warning signs, or symptoms that show that we're not really growing like we're supposed to. One is we run from God, and we don't actually confront ourselves and repent. That was one point. He said the other one is we kind of have the impression that God wants to erase my personality, and I don't want to, if I come and sit with myself, I feel He's going to erase my personality and who I am. But in reality, He's not. He's just going to reveal to me who I really am. Third one is living in denial. We don't want to face ourselves. Fourth is we get amnesia. Something happens, just ignore it. We don't deal with it. 5, we put our lives in little boxes, compartments, so we're different in church as we are outside. The other one, as he said, live out of bounds. We put no boundaries to our life. We live in extremes either way. And then the last one is we kind of, as he put it, grading on a scale or a curve, which means judging others and we judge ourselves based on how we look at others. But what we'll talk about today is an extension of this, is kind of examples and details. And when we look at it, sometimes we don't realize it. Now, I myself, even till now, we're not living our life fully. We're not living who we are fully. I am not living as Father Peter began fully yet. There's still more. I'm exploring layers of my life that I need to expose. I need Christ to expose and bring light to so I can grow. So we kind of sometimes live, in a sense, a fake life. I don't want to say fake, because fake is such an extreme, but we don't live to our potential. Parts of our lives are not what our true selves are. And as they said, like the real me, it's kind of buried somewhere inside of me. It's like we haven't been brought to life. So in order, and why is this important? Because in order to love God and to know God, we have to know ourselves. Saint Augustine and Saint John, actually, there's two really nice quotes they said. They say here, St. Augustine says, "Grant, O Lord, that I may know myself, that I may know you." So let me know myself so that I may know you, because I was made in your image and likeness. And St. John Chrysostom said, "Find the door of your heart, and you will discover it is the door of the kingdom of God." So in order for us to really gain the kingdom of God, we have to gain ourselves first, who we are. So this emotional health, I kind of like separate it into certain layers. The first main layer is this. I'm just going to name a few points because I feel like, expanding on what Mina said, I just want to give some practical examples that kind of touch on who we are, and situations that we went through that will kind of expose, and will help us ask the question, why did I do this? So one is sometimes we name or recognize or manage our own feelings incorrectly. We have an issue with that. So I'll give something, for example, sometimes something can happen, I'll get angry, or I get upset about it. Sometimes I'm not sure if I'm actually angry or upset or jealous. I'm not sure what the feeling is. I'm just like, I just don't feel good about something happened. And if we don't sit, sometimes we just kind of scratch the surface. Why was I upset? Because he said a bad word to me. This person said something rude to me. I'm upset. But then, you know what? Well, this person said something rude to you, you didn't get upset before. So there is something beneath just the surface of, I got upset because he said something rude to me. There's something more than what it is. And we need to kind of sit and explore. Why did I actually get upset about this situation? What is the depth? What caused me to get this upset? And another thing is that we fall into is our ability to express our thoughts and feelings clearly. Sometimes we don't express ourselves clearly, and it causes so much trouble. So if someone hurts me, what do I do? How do I deal with it? Do I ignore it? Do I express it? Do I yell back? What do I do? And the thing is, sometimes we don't deal with, if someone hurts us, we don't deal with it the right way. And the other thing that happens a lot, you see, someone upsets us and we say we're upset. We don't want to make a scene. Goes, "You okay?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about it." And we're just saying, "I'm fine." We're pushing them off saying, "I'm fine. I'm not dealing with it." And the person himself doesn't deal with it. They try to say to themselves, forgive and forget. Now, the important thing is, I want to bring out to us Coptic Orthodox Christians that we have a very strong emphasis on monasticism, on the ascetic life. But sometimes what we fail to do is we take the sayings of the monastic fathers, the desert fathers, and we misapply them to our current life. So something like that, something like even the biblical teachings. Sometimes God says, "When I forgive, I forget." As long as you say, "He hurt me, so we just forget about it." You have good intentions, but that's not the proper method to forgive and forget. Actually, something to know, God uses terminology that we used to, that we understand, to express himself to us. But, and maybe talk about the attributes of God in another talk, but God cannot forget. If you really think about it, God is God. How can you not forget? Right? It says, "I can never forget about you. I forget about this." What it means, when I forgive, I forget, means, of course I remember what you did, but I am treating you as if you never did it. That's what I mean by forget. And I'll never think about it, but I didn't forget. Obviously, God it's impossible for God to actually forget anything. He's the Almighty, right? So that's what it means. So when we understand that, we say to ourselves, how do I, when someone hurts me, how do I forgive them and forget about it in that aspect? Maybe certain things we can't actually forget about it, but a lot of deep scars you'll never forget it. You'll live your whole life, you'll remember it. But the issue is, how does it affect you? So we have to ask ourselves, when someone hurts me, how do I deal with that hurt? How do I deal with that pain? Do I, react and just say I'm fine and ignore it? Or do I actually take it and work on it? Do I take it? And some people they don't ignore it, and they go to another extreme, they retaliate insanely, right? So good. I think half the meeting came in the last 5 minutes. I'm just going to read real quick topics, because I don't want anybody lost in the beginning. So we're just talking about, kind of last week what we discussed was how to grow spiritually. And to grow spiritually, you have to be emotionally healthy. And we touched on a few points or a few barriers last week on what are things or symptoms or signs that we can be like not progressing spiritually. There's kind of roadblock or barriers that are real progression. I'm going to say why am I not really growing? It's been years, I'm going to church all the time, I'm praying in church all the time, but I'm not really growing. So there are certain barriers, emotionally, that we need to get over, really to deal with, in order to really grow, to live a free life. And we kind of touched on them generally, the concepts last week. Today we're going to get some details. Like I said, we said, for example, sometimes our own feelings emotionally, we don't recognize them, we don't kind of identify them. We kind of just happen to kind of just push it away. And we said that could be unhealthy because it will affect a lot of things in our life. And we said, for example, one example is when someone hurts us, how do we express our feelings or thoughts? How do we deal with them in a good way? How do we express them clearly? So we said sometimes people can be hurt, and they're hurt, and they just kind of ignore and say, it's okay, I'm fine. I'll deal with it. You know, they say, I'm fine. But reality, people aren't fine. And how do we deal with that pain? Some people will take it and go to extreme. Some people just ignore it. And some people take it and they retaliate. So he's saying extremes are bad. You can either completely react and yell and scream and go insane, or you can just completely act like nothing happened. And both are very bad, and both actually carry long-term effects. For example, something else. When someone asks us for a favor, and you get embarrassed and come and okay, I'll do it. Or sometimes someone will come to church and be like, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, or bear with me, I need you to do this. You don't want to do it, you just don't want to do it. There's a reason you don't want to do it, whatever. And you kind of get cornered and you're kind of like, okay. And I know it happened when we were younger, and it kind of happens times when we're older. We kind of just feel like, I should say yes because he asked me before and I have to say yes. So, and you don't want to. And then what ends up happening, there's a lot of side effects of that. Sometimes you can actually hurt yourself emotionally. You can actually build animosity. Like, I don't want to come to church anymore because I just keep getting pressured into things. It's like ruining my life, I can't do my things. This person asked me to serve in this aspect, in this ministry, and you know what? I failed my exam because I said yes to the Abuna. And a lot of times, especially in our church, it's like if the Abuna asks you to do something, you can never say no. Which is not true. Sometimes the Abuna will be like, if you have time, I'd love for you to serve in this aspect. And if you're not able to, you should be able to say, I'm sorry, Abuna, I don't have the time. So there is this little taboo in our church where if a woman or a servant asks you to do something, just do it. It's not really fair. In fact, like we said, I know people who did bad in school because everything women asked them to do, women not realizing, they didn't study, they failed their exam, they're like, well, I helped the woman, I helped this. And no, it's not the right way. And then over time, I know a person who eventually got upset with the church because he failed or he lost his job because he was serving so much, and there was no boundary. Because he felt guilty, he had to say yes. So we ourselves need to say yes to sometimes the women, it's okay. Sometimes to servants, sometimes to our friends and people that we know. We need to say, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And I know we feel like if I say this, he's going to get upset. But it's okay to say no. We need to be able to say no. And people shouldn't get upset. And people who get upset, they need to grow out of it. And it's the reality, but we're not going to destroy our lives for the purpose. For example, even physically, I have a bad back, I have herniated discs. Sometimes people are like, can you help carry this? And I'm kind of like, I have a bad back, this is really heavy, I'm embarrassed, I should help, I have to help all this. And all of a sudden I pick it up and I'm in bed for like 2 days. These aren't healthy things to do. And then all of a sudden you get upset, look at these people, and you build this animosity, this hatred over time sometimes to people when it's not really their fault. You could have just said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it, I can't do it. I love you, but I'm not able to do it for this reason. So these are things that we do, like I said, committed to things. Another thing that happens in our community, weddings and parties. A lot of times, I have to go to someone's wedding. We're all acquaintances, there's tons of weddings that we go to. But sometimes you have an exam the next day. And you're kind of like, well, I got a final. I can't really make it, so I can't go to the reception. But you know what? I have to. It's a friend, they're going to get upset. You end up going to the reception and you fail the exam. How does that help? It's okay to say no. And sometimes we have, especially in our community, this guilt of saying no. And it's not an emotionally healthy realm that we live in, because it will affect us and it will get people used to, if you say no, they're like, how in the world can you say no? Which is sad, but we're the new generation, so we can kind of correct this imbalance. And I want to say, even at funerals, I know people feel like, I know we need to be there for people, but sometimes you can't destroy your life you can use someone the next day. His funeral was Monday, I met up with him Wednesday to comfort him. You don't have to comfort him at the moment of the funeral. In fact, in reality, at the funeral, person doesn't really receive much comfort, just too many things going on. But these are things we need to be healthy, and we need to be solid in our friendships to say, if I don't attend this reception, I can still be great friends with him, and it shouldn't affect. You should understand my situation. And sometimes like this, we have a conversation with someone, we're agreeing on a topic. And say I don't agree with the situation. We're discussing the service, we're discussing an activity. And I'm kind of embarrassed. Well, I get pressured, these people said yes, I'm just going with the flow. We're not expressing ourselves. You know, we're not expressing who we are. We're not showing them who we are, what we think. And then eventually what happens, say the project fails. And I'll use an example in church because I'm in church. We're doing the service, and then people have their opinions, and I feel like I have an opinion. I should say, I don't think we should do this because such and such. But I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. These people are older. Who's older? I shouldn't say anything. And then, say it goes down and it fails. And I'm like, I told them so. These people are stubborn. But in reality, it's my fault. I did not express myself because I felt I couldn't do it. So these are barriers that can actually, not expressing ourselves, can actually hurt us more than it hurts other things, because it changes the way we look at situations in our life. And then I know some people who don't agree with something, and they're too embarrassed to say no, or to disagree, and they say okay, and then behind people's backs they're like, well, I can't do this because we screwed up, I'm going to do something else. So then the other people look at them and say, well, he said yes and he did this, he's a sneaky guy, he backstabbed me, and all of a sudden, it looks like we're such horrible people, but in reality, it's just because I was unable to emotionally get up and get the strength to say I don't agree. So these are certain things that really prohibit our progression. Something else is, how do we ask for things? A lot of times we're in a generation where I shouldn't ask. I feel like if I ask, I look needy. Or I don't want to ask, or I want to do something, I want to bring up a point, well, I don't want to take ownership of it. So instead of me saying, you know what, I have a suggestion, I want to do this, or I feel like we should do this, or I think we should do this. So we say, oh, you know, they think they want this. Or I go to a kid or a person, I say, hey, can you tell us, can you get me something? When I was younger, so I'm scared, so I'm like, okay. I go and be like, you know, well, I really wanted this and this. So, and I try to make a whole story as if I'm just a messenger. But in reality, I need to own what I'm asking for, or what I want. So you see how we're kind of like not being ourselves, we're kind of putting in a shadow of who we are to get certain things across. But in reality, it's very important that we take ownership of who we are and say, I don't agree, or I think we should do it this way, or I think such and such, not always we or they. Because if we lose who we are, it's not, and then people look and say, I can't really trust this guy because he's just a messenger. You know, and then we never take real responsibility for things. And even when we're upset, sometimes when we're upset, we argue with our friends or our spouses, we can say, you know, say someone did something, say I did something to upset my wife. My wife, instead of saying, you're a jerk, you're this and that, she could say, you know what, I was hurt at how you said that. And she's basically saying, I am taking ownership of my pain, and I'm expressing to you, I felt pain. In like manner, we need to do the same with our family and our friends. So we need to take ownership and say, I'm okay with doing this. And a lot of times when we take confession, a lot of the young kids, they're lying a lot. Little kids, like, I lied. Why are you lying? Because I don't want to get in trouble. I try to tell them, take ownership. It's okay if you get in trouble. I mean, you're going to get in trouble and later. When you get caught, they're going to think worse, they're not going to trust you. So take ownership. Say, yes, you're right. I did this. I didn't mean it though, but this is what happened. So we need to learn to take ownership of everything and become saying, I did this, I did that, I think such. And when we do this, who we are and what we think is very clear. It's very clear. Another thing, sometimes you're in a conversation with someone and you have someone waiting outside, or you need to go pick something up, and you just can't get out of the conversation, the person's talking too much. And sometimes we get tied up and we're like, okay, can't get out of it, can't get out of it. At the end of the day, you end up spending 20 minutes frustrated that the person's still talking to you and you can't get out of it, and then you miss your appointment, you get in trouble with, you miss the bus, you miss this, and all of a sudden you're upset, and you take the bus, you say, this guy's a parrot, he doesn't stop talking, this and that. At the end of the day, whose fault is it really? It's really my fault. I was unable to say, thank you so much, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I really got one. And a lot of times we need to realize a lot of this is because we're not emotionally growing out of this shell. Sometimes we're embarrassed or we're fearful of saying things like this. Another kind of thing to realize is we may actually have an issue with not respecting and loving other people that have disagreements with us, right? So sometimes someone can disagree with me, I'll get so angry when it's a disagreement. I'll turn any disagreement into an argument. which is a very different thing. It's very, very healthy to disagree. In fact, I'd say in the church, the bishops and the priests, it's good that they disagree. These are healthy disagreements. But sometimes a person can take it into an argument. Turns an argument. He can get too angry. He can just get frustrated that he's not listening to my point. He's not following my point. And these are other unhealthy things that we have to realize. We need to coexist with people who disagree with us. Right? We can't, for example, I'll just talk about marriage. If people aren't married or planning to get married. When you get married, you're not going to agree with your spouse and everything. But you got to be willing to either give in sometimes or they give in. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that we can have different views and we can coexist happily with these different views. We don't have to control them or make them agree with us. And sometimes we can realize and we don't realize that we can actually become manipulative. We actually not notice it, but I'm trying to manipulate this person to understand my point of view, to actually follow my point of view. I'm not giving them the freedom to disagree with you. And then, sometimes we can't negotiate this conflict without understanding their point of view. So we start yelling, we can't sacrifice, if we're planning a party or an event and it doesn't go right, we get frustrated, we get so angry. So these are things that we have to notice. Why am I getting so angry? We gotta ask ourselves this. And something else is dependence. A lot of times, we don't realize how dependent we are either on a family member, on a friend, or on a spouse. And until something happens, we're not going to realize it. But we need to say, why can't I do this without my friend? Why can't I? Some people want to go out and hang out. Their friends don't hang out, they never do anything. They stay in the house all day. So there's some kind of dependence. Why did I not have the ability to go out and just do what I want to do? And these are things that we need to look at and say, look at ourselves and say, where is it that I am kind of, what I need to work on? What are the things that I'm worried about? What is not really helping me grow? Why am I not growing? Why am I not taking the ability to take responsibility of who I am and actually live it out? And then this is the other thing. Someone can compliment us, and we get into such an extreme high. I'm the happiest person of the day because I got a compliment. And then one criticism will just destroy me. It's so angry. These are living two extremes, and we got to say to ourselves, why is it that one compliment will make a big difference in my life, and one criticism will destroy me, will frustrate me the whole day? These are also signs of there's a little bit of imbalance in our lives, and we need to kind of approach it and see what to do. And we need to kind of break free of this, break free of these patterns. Another thing we do is competition and comparison. A lot of times, this person is really good at this, or is doing this, and I subconsciously want to shape my life based on beating this person or getting better. Sometimes it comes to money, to a career. You look around and say, this person is making X amount, $100,000, I'm only making 70. Where is he made? I'm older than him. How could this be? I need to work hard. And we kind of shape ourselves based on this comparison with other people, and we kind of compete with them. And it can come to a point where it's so unhealthy that sometimes all that we do, and we get upset when we're not living up to the standards that we have, that we make for ourselves in our comparison to other people. And all this stuff can lead to other things. It can lead to lying, it can lead to many things. So we need to kind of realize this. And of course, the last point is, are we aware really of our limitations? Everyone's different. I remember, I'll give you two small examples. When I was young, I used to love playing basketball. And I used to love dribbling. That was my thing. I used to love dribbling. And then I used to watch some of my friends, and as I grew, it made sense. They had longer arms, they were taller, they were able to do things I couldn't do. So no matter what it was in the game, I was very stubborn. I was like, I want to do this specific move, and this, and that, and that, and that. And I was not physically able to do it. And as I got older, I was like, okay, let me look at my strengths and my weaknesses. Right? I don't have the long arms. I can't do the best crossover in the world. I can't do this move, I can't do that move. And I was able to say, let me work on what my strengths are, what my talents are. And let me realize what my weaknesses are, and I'll work around them. I'll become, a good member of the team. And obviously this took a long time, because I was very stubborn to do it. Or something else. When I was young, I used to hear other deacons hit such high notes, and they control their voices, and this and that. And then all of a sudden, I want to do the same thing. I start trying to hit these high notes, and everybody's in church is like, this sounds horrible, Because I'm just trying to do something that I'm comparing myself to someone else, and I'm not realizing where my own boundaries are, where my own weaknesses So these are limits that we need to realize, because if we don't do this, you end up being, like I said, we end up kind of presenting ourselves in certain aspects as a different person. We're not really who we are. And to be free of all this is the greatest feeling. To be free of the comparisons, the contrast, the burdens that we put on ourselves to do things, to not be embarrassed, to not feel hurt. All these things kind of affect who we are, and they tie us down. As they say, we're kind of our real selves, we're buried alive inside. The real Father Peter is buried inside, he hasn't been really let out yet. And this is really, if you think about it, this is the first layer that we're thinking. We sit with ourselves and say, why did I do this? Why did I do that? Why am I not taking ownership of things? Why am I not doing this? And this is really the first layer. Once we sit and see that, there actually is, and I'll talk very briefly, there is a second layer that we have to uncover. So the first layer would be, why am I comparing and contrasting? Why am I upset by one criticism? And we'll say, why? Could it be that I'm a little bit prideful? That's another question. Well, why am I a little bit prideful? What is the reason that I'm prideful? Is it because I'm covering a weakness that I don't feel comfortable about? Do I have what is it? Or someone would say, why can't I say I want to do this? Or I think to do this? Is it because I'm scared of people's image of me? Like, what are these? And then this is the second layer that we have to ask ourselves. I already realized I'm not doing these things right. I need to ask myself, why now am I not doing these right? Or am I getting so angry? Why am I turning every disagreement into an argument? Why? Don't just cover because I'm passionate. No, what is the reason? Is it because I'm a little stubborn, actually? Is it that I'm failing to see that the other person could be right? Or that I feel like if I don't get my way, I'm not comfortable? So there's another layer that we need to ask ourselves. And then eventually, when we get through this, we'll see sometimes the main sins that we always discuss: jealousy, selfishness, mistrust, controlling. All these things that we have could be actually a product of certain things that happen in our lives as we grew up. Sometimes it could be something within the family. Our family brought us up to live this way. So a person may not. So a parent sometimes, and especially in our culture, sometimes a parent may not show a lot of love and affection, physically to certain kids. So this kid may feel hurt that he's not loved. So this person can do one of two things: either want affection and get that from outside, or this person may not. He may be very dry as well. So we need to realize, let's go back. I peeled off the first layer. Now I'm peeling off the second layer. What does it come down to? Am I jealous? Am I, do I want attention but I not feel loved fully? That's the second layer. And then the third layer is we go back, where did this actually come from? At what point in my life did this grow? Did the seed was planted and started growing? And I know this is actually if you think about it, it's a very painful thing to go through. It's very hard. No one said it's easy. But to live, to be free of anything that burdens you, we have to live we have to go through these pains. But how do we, just to kind of conclude, what are certain steps that we can do to start this process of letting Christ peel off these layers of our life and resurrect our true self from what we are now? One, first and foremost, we have to be willing to understand it's going to be a painful process a little bit. It's painful to look at yourself and admit, you know what, I'm a little selfish. I'll share something small. I was never considered a selfish person in my life. And then when I got married, I feel like at that level of commitment, I was selfish. And later on I realized, you know what, this and that, I'm actually selfish. And it took me a while to realize, you know what, it was hard. I was saying, you know what, I was never selfish, but in this aspect I am. And it was a little hard for me. But I had to admit it. And once I admitted it, I said, you know what? This is a sin. This is a weakness that I have, and I'm going to work on it. And this is the good thing about it, is that you shed to light all the weaknesses so that you can build strengths on them. You can actually become strong and live a resurrected life in Christ. So we understand that we're going to be vulnerable, but who are we vulnerable to? First, we're going to be vulnerable to Christ, to ourselves in front of God. And He's our loving Father, and everybody that we can be vulnerable to, anybody we can choose, God is the most secure person that we can actually be vulnerable with. Because He created us and loves us, and He wants to give us the strength and ability to regain that strength, to grow, and to be the real me, to be the real us, who we are. And to do this, we need to slow down. Especially in our lives, we're so busy. Things are just, It's a fast-paced life, work, and time, this, activities, weddings, planning. We need to really make time. And this is the biggest struggle, I think, in the Northeast, especially in the Northeast this time. We need to kind of take a break and sit with ourselves every day and say, evaluate, what did I do today? I need to sit and say to myself, why did I get into argument with this person in church? Why did I snap right away? Why is it when someone asked me to do this, I didn't want to do it, but I said yes? Why? Why did I fall into this? Why did I say yes when I really didn't want to? So, in order to get this stuff, we need a lot of time sitting alone and thinking about it. Because a lot of times, I shouldn't have said this, and then we ignore it. Well, I got to do it anyway. I move forward. Or I shouldn't have done something, I'm going to try to say no later. We take 5 seconds to think about it. In reality, we need time. We need a lot of time to process and to meditate, to look at ourselves and say, why did I do this? To start letting Christ peel the first layer. And to do this, like I said, the business of life numbs us for all this. We end up living a life. Like you see, there was a thing, I think it was a show or something, I don't remember what it was. And everybody's wearing masks of different people. And we kind of do that a little bit. We're not really who we are because we're so busy running around. We're not letting ourselves grow. We're not letting ourselves live, become who the real person is. Because we're so busy. So once we slow down and reflect, this will be the first step to really say, let me shed light and see what happened. And then, of course, that's not enough because we need time with God. What will help us to continue? Because it could be a painful path, like we said. What will help is that we know that Christ is with us. That God desires to renew us. And He desires that we live with Him. And to live with Him, we live a great life. It's a revolution in your life. But we need to read the Scriptures. We need to spend time with God. Because like I said, St. John Chrysostom said, find the door of your heart. And you will discover that this door is the door to the kingdom of God. So to discover God, we have to discover ourselves first in light of Christ. Because we were created in His image and likeness. And in order to restore this image and likeness, only Christ can restore it in us. And He's the one who gives us the strength and the ability to do so. And then more importantly is, sometimes it's hard to do it alone. So a lot of times we need a certain person that we trust that can support us in this time. Because it's a very difficult emotional circumstances that we're in. We're kind of peeling over these layers of who we were, what we were doing our whole life, and we're revolutionizing who we are. And some people, we may realize when they see there's a different me. I'm acting a little different. And it's okay. I started saying no to some weddings because I'm busy. I started saying no to some, I can't go to this funeral, I'll meet the person later. I started saying no, that I'm not going to take on this service. I don't have time for it. I need to do something more important. Some people say, our parents say, how could you not do this? But people may get upset, but we need to be able to have the ability to say, it's fine. It's fine that they will get upset because we need to grow. We can't be tied down to the cultural limitations that are imposed on us. And doing this, we'll be able to break free, but we need that courage, and we can only get that courage through commitment with Christ and quiet time. And this is pretty much it, but I want to just say a few more points about misconceptions that we have as we go through this process. Sometimes we believe who I am is what I do. My performance in certain things. I'm really good at these things. That defines who I am, which is completely not true. Who we are is not defined by what we do. Neither is it defined by possessions, and neither is who I am based on what people say. Sometimes people say things or have use of us. It's really not us. So we can't let these 3 things hold us down and mold us. We need to break it free and mold our own. And more importantly is, I am allowed to make mistakes. We have to know that I am allowed to make mistakes. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. We need to expect it. So it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to be helped. It's okay to be helped. It's okay to ask for help in general, with a family member, with a friend, with a spouse. And it's okay to feel what we feel. Like I said, it's very important that we can say, I have anger, frustration, sadness. I have all these feelings. It's okay for me to feel that. It's okay for me to dive into it, to understand it, and to manage it. A lot of times they say, someone got us upset in church. Again, another bad concept. Someone got you upset, forgive them right away. Don't be upset, don't be upset. It's the worst thing to say to anyone. Someone upsets you and say, don't be upset, don't be upset. Hopefully we don't say that to people. Don't say that to people. They have a right to be upset. But what you want to do is to help them deal with being upset. You can't ignore it. Or tell them, it's okay. Let us not do that to anyone. Let's tell them, let's validate them and say, I'm sorry you're upset. But this person shouldn't have done that. Let's discuss what we're going to do with it. Let's deal with things in an emotionally healthy way. So that way we can move forward and grow spiritually, and then we can actually follow the commandments of Christ without being burdened by this dichotomy in our life. We're like a house divided in two. And if we don't do this, we will really, really not be able to progress in our life. But once we break free, we will see the amount of growth that we're going to do. It's enormous. We're actually breaking free of all the things that are laying us down, and we're living a life in Christ. And we can actually say we are the image and likeness of Christ because we broke free from what was killing us, which is burying our real selves. And glory be to God forever. Amen. Just have a couple of announcements. There is, if anybody wants to help with the festival, Andy Khalil is here. You can kind of give your information to Andy, as well as Mina Fair.